When we think about France, pictures of famous sites like the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre Museum, and the charming streets of Paris typically pop into our heads. But today, we will tell you about how France is pushing Guinea, Haiti, and other African countries into poverty. The heartbreaking history of exploitation in Haiti. The former French colony of Saint-Domingue, now known simply as Haiti, serves as a glaring illustration of the inhumanity that resulted from French rule. The colony's prosperity was founded upon the terrible enslavement of Africans who labored on plantations, creating enormous money for France at the cost of countless lives. The colony's prosperity was built upon the cruel enslavement of Africans who worked on plantations. 1791 marked the beginning of the Haitian people's uprising against their oppressors, which resulted in the country's final independence in 1804. However, the price of freedom was exorbitantly high. At the beginning of the 19th century, France's dogged determination to reclaim control of Haiti reached its zenith in the form of a terrifying demand for compensation. The government of Haiti was pressured into agreeing to give former French colonists a sum of 150 million francs as compensation for the money they had lost due to the abolition of slavery. This mind-boggling price, which was roughly equivalent to nearly 10 times the amount that the United States paid for the Louisiana Territory, was well outside of Haiti's financial capabilities. Haiti continued to battle for financial stability, despite being compelled to borrow money from banks in France. It is easy for us to miss the haunting shadows that lurk beneath the surface when we imagine the gorgeous landscapes of France and its famous buildings, such as the Eiffel Tower. A dark history of colonial exploitation and imperial supremacy continues to lurk in the background, even though the French legacy is filled with cultural splendor and artistic excellence. The harrowing histories of Guinea and Haiti shed light on the unspeakable depths to which colonial governments will sink to preserve control. The exploitation of Haiti by France has had far-reaching and long-lasting effects on that Caribbean nation. Despite having a rich history and culture, Haiti has historically struggled to pull itself out of abject poverty. In metropolitan France, only 14.1% of the population lives below the poverty line. Yet in Haiti, the poverty rate is a startling 59%. The economic inequalities are striking, with the typical yearly income of a French family being over $31,000, which stands in stark contrast to the pitiful amount of $450 that is earned by a Haitian family. Because of France's actions, a cycle of poverty has been maintained in Haiti, which has not only stifled the country's progress, but also robbed its people of access to fundamental resources like schools, hospitals, and public buildings. The burden of the indemnity that was forced upon Haiti continues to aggravate the country's economic troubles, making it practically impossible for people in Haiti to pull themselves out of poverty. An object lesson on retaliation, Guinea. In the annals of history, the struggle for independence that Guinea undertook in 1958 stands as a striking reminder of the lengths to which colonial powers would go to keep their hold on their once colonized lands. A terrifying lesson in revenge planned by the French administration, which left an indelible impact on the nation of Guinea, was delivered in response to the decision made by Guinea to break free from the colonial dominance of France. During the middle of the 20th century, when winds of change were blowing over Africa, Guinea made a priority to assert its sovereignty and design its course. However, this quest for self-determination ran head-on into the objectives of the French colonial elite in Paris, who were keen on maintaining control over their colonies. This caused a violent conflict between the two groups. The bold drive to break free Guinea was met with a response that not only aimed to crush its dreams, but also sent a strong signal to other colonies who were entertaining ideas of independence. The events that unfolded in Guinea in the years after its independence proclamation in 1958 were nothing short of devastating. The French administration, motivated by a vengeful desire to maintain its dominant position, launched a campaign of destruction that was painstakingly thought out. In a concerted effort to destroy Guinea's capacity for development, the country's educational institutions, administrative symbols, and essential pieces of infrastructure were all reduced to rubble. The devastation that was left behind after this war served as a chilling illustration of the lengths to which former colonial powers were willing to go to keep their dominance, even if it meant inflicting unimaginable agony on the same people who lived in the areas over which they had formerly reigned. The destruction that was wreaked upon Guinea had two different functions. In the first place, the purpose of this act was to dash any hopes or crush any feelings of pride that the people of Guinea could have had regarding their newly won freedom. The French intended to damage Guinea's ability to function independently and generate a perception of disorder and instability by reducing educational and administrative institutions to ruins. This was done to accomplish this goal. Second, the demolition was a premeditated act to send a stern message of caution to any other colonies that may have been considering following a strategy comparable to their own to achieve independence. The French sought to make sure that the cost of resisting colonial rule was viewed as being so great that it was impossible to pay, so that they could discourage any ideas of freedom that could develop in other places. The history of Guinea is a tragic illustration of the power dynamics that frequently characterize the ties between former colonial powers and their formerly colonized territories. The French administration's retaliatory efforts served to highlight the lengths to which they were willing to go to maintain control and domination. It was a chilling reminder that the legacy of colonialism could not be readily put aside. Rather, it was a heritage of manipulation, tyranny, and vindictiveness that remained long after the official links of colonial power were severed. This was a reminder that the legacy of colonialism could not be quickly cast aside. Decades after the fact, the fight for independence that Guinea waged and the retaliation that followed are still seen to be indicative of the larger conflicts that many African nations endured in their quest for self-determination. The wounds that such destructive campaigns leave behind are a sobering reminder of the complicated legacies that have been left behind by colonialism, as well as the requirement for acknowledgement, healing, and reconciliation. Imperialism of the economy and the maintenance of control. After failing to maintain dominance over its former colonies through more overt means of control, France resorted to economic imperialism to accomplish so. France was able to have a large amount of influence over the economics of 14 African nations after the introduction of the CFA franc in 1945. It was necessary for these nations that they deposit 50% of their CFA franc reserves with the French central bank, which served to further solidify France's influence over their resources. Despite the arduous fights for independence, many African countries' hopes and dreams were thwarted by French meddling in their affairs. Prominent African leaders who tried to break free from this influence frequently ran across opposition, bloodshed, and covert activities that were aimed to keep things just the way they were. The continued control exercised by the French. The biographies of influential African figures such as Barthélemy Boganda, Sékou Touré, and Sylvanus Olympio shed insight into the extent that France went to keep its control over its once colonized territories. Boganda's efforts to free the Central African Republic from French authority were greeted with resistance in the form of arrest and a mysterious airplane accident. In the same vein, Sékou Touré's efforts to steer Guinea in the direction of autonomy were met with sabotage and an unstable economic environment. Tragically, Olympio's assassination occurred as a result of his ambition to liberate Togo from economic servitude. An appeal for the need to acknowledge and implement change. France and other former colonial powers must recognize their history and redress the imbalances they produced. This is especially true as the rest of the globe is becoming more conscious of the historical injustices that were perpetuated by colonial countries. The legacy of exploitation and economic inequality continues to afflict African nations, which impedes their progress and keeps them in a state of abject poverty. The first step toward reconciliation is admitting the hurt that has been caused in the past and then actively working to make things right again. France must explore the possibility of making reparations that are commensurate with the actual magnitude of the damage inflicted by centuries of exploitation. France has the potential to play a part in repairing the damage it has caused to these countries if it takes an active role in the conversation, provides support for development efforts, and encourages partnership formation. That's all for the video. We'll be right back with more. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.